the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 13 rankings presented by DraftKings. If you want to find the full rankings list, hit the description or just go to DraftKingsPlaybook.com. You want to play in the best tournament on DraftKings, also hit the description and play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. $15 to play, 3 max entry, no rake, 2,500 spots. It fills very quickly, so I suggest you go reserve your entry right now. Flat payouts, double your money for coming just in the cash. It's set up, I mean, we went through the entire thing. It's set up perfectly. Also, if you want projections, the optimizer, all of the tools that you need to succeed on DraftKings or in the betting market, ftndaily.com. It's heavily discounted at the moment. You use code MAYO, you get yourself an extra discount on top of that, all right? Good for the Christmas season. You got nothing to do sticking around. You can't leave your house. You might as well bet on football or play DraftKings football. Hey, golf is coming around back too. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on this time of year. Remember to smash the like button to the video as well and subscribe to Mayo Media Network. If you want your start sit question answered, highly suggest you tune into the Friday show where in the comment section of that video, I will be taking start sit questions and responding to everyone who leaves the question in there right now. Tricky week for rankings, not going to lie to you, as week 12 hasn't finished yet and will not finish for like another 30 hours or so by the time of this recording. So once again, the rankings are going to change throughout the course of the week. If something happens in the Wednesday game with injuries or there's just new situations that arise, we hear about injuries we didn't know about. So again, the updates for the rankings will happen every single day in the column. Of course, I cannot go back and edit the show once it's released. Shockingly enough, that is not how video works. You know who does know that? Jake Ciely from theathletic.com. What's up, man?
What's up? I was actually looking back at your contest. Didn't do so well last week because the Christmas season, I have 5 snowflakes in there, including 2 of your boys, Beasley and then Hunt from last week.
Beasley threw a touchdown, though. He had like double-digit points, didn't he?
9.3.
Really? That sucks for him. Bummer. I was big on Kareem Hunt. I was big on Kareem Hunt last week. Just did not work out whatsoever.
I know you skewed me.
Yeah, it happens. Hopefully, I got you on board with Austin Eckler. Like if he plays, you have to play him.
Oh no, I was with you on that one. I was tweeting that out. I had Austin Eckler inside my top 15 for seasonal, and surprisingly enough, I had Austin Eckler. And what was my other? I had another strong play. And even so, still, I had a miserable DraftKings week overall. I had Kyle Rudolph in some places. I had the Saints defense, which was obvious, but it was just a bad week.
I'll discuss it on the DraftKings show later in the week. The Saints scored 14 DraftKings points. I think they were like the 8th highest scoring defense of the week. Like anytime you find yourself in that situation, especially with the fantasy defense, like the floor is always going to be really good. So cash game wise that you play, I didn't expect them to throw so many picks because they barely threw the ball. I expected them to run the entire time. Even if they got down, they just kind of punt the game away. That I did think it was better to pivot off of the Saints D and just don't use them anywhere. Solely because once you face so many rushing attempts, you really decrease the value of the defense going against. Now, it ended up working out just because they only gave up 3 points and generated those turnovers, but there was still a lot of like Falcons D was the D to play or Carolina D.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was, as you and I were talking about before the show, this was the first week in a long time I legitimately forgot and didn't even check all the lineups that I had already set earlier in the week because all these stupid changes and then what was going on with the Broncos and like you and I said it. I have never updated a single week of rankings more than I did for week 12, and it's still not even over yet.
Yeah, technically you can still be updating the rankings as we go. I've already moved on to week 13 though. I found it incredibly difficult to do the rankings this week, so I think I have a good grasp on it. But honest to God, looking at it, like once you get past like 5 guys at one position, it's like, oh, what am I doing now? Like running back. Let's start with the running back. I'll go through the injury report to kick it off. Dalvin Cook, Myles Gaskin, Todd Gurley, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and Tevin Coleman I have in the rankings. Out of the rankings for the moment, James Conner, Phillip Lindsay, Salvon Ahmed, Kalen Ballage, Justin Jackson, David Johnson, and Devonta Freeman is likely out, officially out. Joe Mixon is not eligible to return from injured reserve as of yet. So those 5 guys at the top, Dalvin Cook, number 1, despite the fact that he's dealing with an ankle injury. Sounds like he's going to play. James Robinson, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, and Nick Chubb. After that, it gets just bananas. So I have David Montgomery at number 6 in probably the most painful ranking I've ever had to make, but he plays all of the snaps. Ryan Null's not taking touches away from Detroit is a fantastic opportunity. Trubisky does kill the Lions historically too. I think his 4 best fantasy games ever are against the Lions. But if you're going to tell me 20 touches against the Lions, like I can't project that for anyone else on this list. I have Carson at 7, Alvin Kamara at 8, Latavius Murray at 9, because all the Saints want to do is run the ball with Taysom Hill. Aaron Jones at number 10. Like I don't feel good about that Kamara ranking. I don't feel good about that Latavius Murray ranking. But what the hell are you going to do? Put Miles Sanders above them? No.
I gotta tell you, at this point, I'd put at least Antonio Gibson, even in that matchup, over both of them. I think look, Alvin Kamara, his ability is that he can take one to the house, and we know the explosiveness. But this is what I said in the waiver column when I do my concern section, like how concerned I am about players. So I said, if you take the name off the jersey, and I told you 11 to 12 carries, nothing in the passing game for the Saints, you wouldn't be that interested even on the Saints. And that's the problem, is it's 11 to 12 carries. It's what Kamara's been for the entire season, but now it's a 0. And it's actually negative last week in the passing game. So I look at it, 12 carries. Could he do more than most? Sure. And I think that to your point about Miles Sanders, with what just happened in that game, Miles Sanders is not getting that bulk of the work that he was before he got hurt, with Boston Scott mixed in more. So I wouldn't go that far, but somebody like Antonio Gibson, and I know DeAndre Swift is a risk because, hey, Darrell Belleville might be worse than Patricia. That's a possibility. So, I mean, and the fact that he leans on Adrian Peterson or Kerryon Johnson. So I'm just saying Kamara wouldn't fall that far, but I think I would definitely go Aaron Jones. I would definitely go Antonio Gibson. If Josh Jacobs practices Thursday, as in like not waiting till Friday and then get a limited session, but if he gets a full practice in already on Thursday, I would even go Josh Jacobs over him.
It's funny, the Josh Jacobs thing, that every time he's been on the injury report this season, he's laid an absolute egg in your fantasy lineup. Every time he has not appeared on the injury report, he's been awesome. That's why I said I want him practicing Thursday. Who used to be the guy who did it? Stefan Diggs in Minnesota. Like anytime he was just randomly on the injury report, don't play him. It was such a
that was Roddy White.
Yeah, Roddy White was exactly the same way. Yeah. So I don't,
the best. That's why I love Roddy White, because he used to just tell us, "Hey, don't play me this week."
I don't know if this is like a real thing or not, but like I would expect Gaskin to step back into his regular role if he was close to being activated last week. I would expect him in. If he sits again and Ahmed sits, like I'm not playing any of the Dolphins running backs. Like if you told me like guaranteed 15 touches from these guys, I'm with you, Swift and Gibson. But like I don't think Kamara, Murray, or Jones or Carson probably you can guarantee 15 touches to. The issue with the Saints guys is that Taysom Hill is pulling a Josh Allen and stealing all the touchdowns too.
Right. It's worse. He's Cam Newton. That's what we said from day one of these. Cam Newton. You know, what's funny is you said 15 touches. Go further down. Wayne Gallman and Duke Johnson are guaranteed 15 touches.
And Gio Bernard.
Yeah. I mean, you could conceivably go down. I will say, even at 21, I personally would have Mostert higher. It's similar to what you said about Austin Eckler. I said, I know we all hate to try to trust Shanahan, but the one thing he has proven over the past 2 years, when Mostert is healthy, he's his guy. He had 65% of the carries in his first game back, even with that Jeff Wilson work. And it's not probably going to be Jeff Wilson every single game. It'll be Jerick McKinnon in the next one. But he gave him 65 carries in a bad matchup. I think he had about 65 or 70 yards against the Rams the first time earlier this season. I think it was week 5 or 6. But Mostert's his guy. I would put Mostert higher just because he has been proven to be. Shanahan's like, Mostert's my guy. Everybody else is mixed in unless he gets hurt.
I do expect Tevin Coleman to return this week. Not that this is a huge impact, but that's like, I do. That's like 6 carries here, 6 carries there. And if they do fall behind, they're not going to be able to run the entire time. And it's just it's a really wonky matchup because I don't know. The Bills defense looked really good last week, which is the first time I can say that in 10 weeks.
Into the entire year?
Yeah. I was very surprised at how well they were able to manage the Chargers offense. It was basically like, here, Austin Eckler, take whatever you want. And that's about all you can do today.
I think we could put a little bit of that on Anthony Lynn and the offensive calls there, because there was times where Joshua Kelly was getting touches that were Austin Eckler touches. Like, when you're getting him out in space, what are you doing? And then like that 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, whatever it was, or like that goal, there was just some opportunities there. Was just like this. Why are you doing the Joshua Kelly? So I agree with you. They looked good, but they could not stop Austin Eckler in the passing game. And I'm not saying that Mostert. So this is where I'm going with this. Mostert's not going to get 8 targets, but he got 2 in his first game back. He gets 2, 3, 4 in games, very similar to Nick Chubb. And on top of that, this would be Jerick McKinnon. And even if Tevin Coleman gets the 6, as you're talking about, I just think that comes at the expense of Jeff Wilson. Like, Jeff Wilson's just going to go back to 0 or 1 like he was when all 3 of these guys were healthy.
The issue with Jeff Wilson is that 0 or 1 is going to come on the 1 yard line.
It's only happened a few times. We just always remember it because it's so frustrating.
So I guess I should if I move Mostert up, do I put like Gallman and Duke Johnson and Drake and Bernard and Mostert above like Miles Sanders at 14? Like keep Josh Jacobs at 15 and move the rest of the guys to 14 and Sanders behind them? I'm really, and even Chris Carson, who Carlos Hyde ended up with more carries than he did. I don't know why.
I think it was the first game back.
Apparently Carson wasn't injured, but apparently he was at the same time. I still trust in Chris Carson, but that was not encouraging despite him looking better than Carlos Hyde that entire game. It's just sort of a clusterfuck of guys in here. I can't really remember a week. Like I have Benny Snell ranked at number 22, and that's assuming that Connor doesn't come back for the following week, but that's going to be highly affected by the distribution of running back touches and targets in the Wednesday afternoon game.
I mean, it might be McFarland before we even know.
True.
And, I brought this up in the waiver column and kind of just for everybody out there. I wonder if you're on the same page as me. I told people that I would stash both of them if they're out there. I know Snell was picked up a lot already, but go get McFarland too, because Connor almost set out this season to begin with. And now that he has it, maybe he has it and it's not affecting him very heavily. And he's like, fine, I'm going to come back because now I have it and it's out of the way. But there's also a scenario where, given what he's gone through with like the cancer treatments in the year past and what he's come back from, that, I mean, I think it's probably 10% chance, but just be out there just in case he could decide hey, it's not worth it for my health.
I would tend to agree. I think you go pick up both of them. In all the leagues that I have James Conner, I had Benny Snell kind of linked to him just because it seemed like James Conner was a bit of an injury risk. And when he got hurt in week 2, that I just ended up with Benny Snell on a bunch of teams just as a protection type of method. I'm with you, though. Anthony McFarland could end up being the guy. But from what we've seen so far, when Conner is out, Snell is the lead. That doesn't mean he's the bell cow, but he is the lead. And he had been garnering those goal line touches anyway with Conner in that. If it breaks down to anything and there's a carry from the 3-yard line, at least the first one, I do think still goes to Benny Snell. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go pick up Anthony McFarland, but I think that he's going to be given the chance to do this.
Yeah, and similar to that is the goal line opportunities. That's the other good thing about Wayne Gallman. I mean, all he does is score touchdowns, and they pulled the Nick Chubb, but he fortunately got it on 4th down. It's 4 straight runs from the 2, and he got in on the 4th down. So, if you're going for these type of situations, what I was going to go back to saying about this top 20 is there's a lot of talent in bad situations, whether it's split touches, not knowing what it's going to be, also poor matchups versus these poor, they're not poor talents. They're not the talent of Aaron Jones guys, but they're the ones getting the 20 touches. And so, I don't even know that Wayne Gallman against the Seahawks is as good matchup as it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. The Seahawks run defense was always meh. The pass defense was abysmal, but they've been playing good the past 3 weeks. And that's not a great matchup. Duke Johnson against the Colts is somewhat enticing, but put it this way, Pat, if anybody asks you and says, hey, I want to start Kenyon Drake over Alvin Kamara, I think what we're getting to here at this point, everybody from
whatever
6
you think
through 20.
Yeah, whatever you think, just go. Like if you have the hunch that Drake, and I can't really make a compelling argument the other way. I can make it on both sides. I can make it against both sides. If you want to go do it, just go for it.
I'm even okay going down to Zeke. Look, it was just last week, recency bias, where everybody was like, oh, Zeke's fine. 100 yards. He's fine. Yes. And then last week comes and yes, it was a crap game. Zeke played like junk and he fumbled, but something I even tweeted out was like Adrian Peterson still has a higher fumble rate per touch than Zeke does for his career. It's just compounded by the fact that Zeke hasn't been as good since Dak's gone down. By the way, before Dak went down, double digits all of the first 5 games, including the 6th game, the first game without him, and was scoring touchdowns regularly. So it's just people who just want to pile on him, I think, because of the contract. And I think that's part of it. It's like, you've ruined this team because we're spending all this money on you. It's not that bad. And I'm not saying you're wrong to have him down that far, but when we're in this conversation of having 18 to 20 touches, I still think they're going to turn to Zeke. I know Tony Pollard's looking good, but I still think Zeke is going. It's 15 plus, I would say, is still a guarantee.
I think he's around that. He's almost in the Kamara role right now, though. When Andy Dalton first took over, I think he saw 5 targets and 6 targets in his first 2 games. No, 5 catches and 6 catches his first 2 games. He's getting 2 targets a game now. He's just not a part of their passing game whatsoever. If he was, and that was still consistent, then I would feel a little bit better about oh, he has a floor. But as we just saw, he has no floor anymore.
Yeah, so for that, it's actually his 2 receptions was a high. It's actually since week 7, 2 targets, 3-2-3. At the same time, 19 carries, 18 carries, 21 carries, and then that letdown on Thanksgiving against Washington. And again, I think that's what's in everybody's mind. And right before that game, just even throwing out the receptions, 18, 19, 21 carries. So I still think he's got a nice floor. He's not the Zeke of a top 5 because even in that game, what do you have? 18.4. That's almost top 5, 18.4. I just think that the floor is a lot lower than it's ever been with Ezekiel Elliott, and that's why people are so scared.
So lack of passing game, injuries on the offensive line, and the matchup against the Ravens is not a great one, even with their banged up defense. It's still, a median to a slightly above average difficulty.
They might have 50% of it.
But they might have everyone back at this point too. Like, I have no idea what's going on. When Dobbins and Ingram went on the COVID list, did you think that there was ever a I know the games kept getting pushed, but I just assumed they were out at least, 7 days, but it turns out that's not the case.
I don't understand it. Is it 10? Are they up to, because what it's supposed to be from the report is it's 10 days for close tracing. You don't have it. And so you have it. No, that's what it is. It's 10 days. You're asymptomatic and you have it. 14 days if you do have it and symptoms. And then it's the contract tracing where Matthew Stafford can come back in the same week as long as you get the 2 negatives. But I thought they had it. They had no symptoms. So it would be 10 days. So would tomorrow be 10 days? I think that's what it is. I think tomorrow's the 10th day.
It's all very confusing to me. Lamar Jackson's not playing in week 13, right? Or can he play? Because that game's on a Monday now.
He might be able to now. Wait, is it Monday or is that the one that got pushed to Tuesday? I thought there was another Tuesday one now.
Is there another Tuesday? Fantasy football used to be so much more fun when it was
it's Tuesday. Baltimore's Tuesday.
It used to just be like, hey, the guy has an ankle injury. We're going to find out at 11:35 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday whether he's not going to play or not. Then we'll scramble for a lineup. Now it's just like, I don't know. Like, what's going on here?
I think Lamar Jackson can play if he's okay because that's the Tuesday thing. They pushed it back to Tuesday. Now that's why everybody's bitching and complaining about what happened with the Titans earlier this year and the Broncos, how they were made an example because they broke the rules legitimately and this is different. And they're saying this is just a breakout and whatever. But yeah, nobody knows. The NFL has been changing the rules as they go along, honestly. So I think Lamar Jackson can play against the Cowboys, but don't guarantee that's I'm truthful about that. I thought you missed the days of the doubtful tag, by the way, because it was just kind of like, hey, we know that you're more than questionable to likely be out.
I do miss the doubtful tag. That's why I have to do the likely in, likely out in the column. Yeah. Just like, they're saying this is the injury, but he's questionable to play. And before it'd be like, if you had the Q tag, like 9 out of 10 times you were going to play, like the Brian Westbrook honorary Q tag, where he had it every single week of his career, but he always ended up playing. And
the entire Patriots offense.
Exactly. But if you had the D next to your name, it would be like 1 in 50 times you're going to end up playing. It'd be like a huge surprise if that ended up happening. I much preferred it.
By the way,
what?
I was going to say, somebody's about to timestamp that and put it in the comments.
Jake, you have the filthiest mind going.
I read your comments on your videos. I know your listeners.
They're good people. I appreciate them. So the 21 to 30 range, I'll probably end up moving up Mostert, but I have Mostert, Benny Snell, Naheem Hines, Ezekiel Elliott, Damian Harris, J.K. Dobbins. I'm guessing he's going to be the lead against the Cowboys. Well, I guess we'll see after the Wednesday game.
You have time to update.
Okay, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Todd Gurley, James White, Frank Gore, and then into Jonathan Taylor, who's expected to be back, I think, J.D. McKissick, Hyde, Edwards, Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, Jamal Williams, Cam Akers, Adrian Peterson, and Le'Veon Bell. Cam Akers got some significant run, and now the stat world is going crazy. I saw Twitter going all gaga over Cam Akers, Jake. Here's the issue. He's one of 3 guys in a backfield that barely rushes in touchdowns to begin with. Like, as good as he could be, what's he going to get? 30% of the touches? Like, pass.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. And, a lot of it came on one play. And I'm not the person, I'm not the person that ever wants to take a play away from somebody. But in a situation like this, I will put a little bit of credence into it because similar to Zach Moss in a complete split backfield, that one big play kind of inflates what it looks like was a 50-50 split. And it looks like, oh, Zach Moss had the better day. He busted one. And that's the ability of some of these players. That's why I don't like taking it away. But at the same time, this is a a third most weeks. The touches were very similar. There's just more in the passing game for some, almost nothing for Malcolm Brown. And here's the interesting thing, Pat. I tweeted this out earlier this morning. The last 4 weeks of running backs facing 8 men in the box. So there's 2 possibilities here. One is the Rams are super transparent and maybe McVay's being caught, or 2, everybody's just saying, go ahead and try to beat us, Jared Goff, which is kind of what I lean to. The top 5, Hunt, Madison, Malcolm Brown, Henderson at 4, and then Peyton Barber, and then Akers is at 6. 3 of the top 6 facing 8-man boxes are these running backs. To what you're talking about is like even trying to run it in at the goal line.
That's really interesting. It must be a schematic thing.
I think it's more of like, I think it's more the defense is schematically saying, go ahead and try to beat us, Jared Goff. Or like I said, maybe they're just very transparent in their 12 sets and 11 sets, and people just know, like they figured out. So 2 years ago, they figured out how to beat Jared Goff was disguise your defense, don't show it, stay in the huddle until the last possible second. And that's when you can watch and see Jared Goff's numbers come off. Is maybe defenses have figured it out, and it's kind of telling whether or not they're running the ball. Here's the other one, interesting one. You know who's at 0.0% in the last 4 weeks of facing 8-man boxes?
J.D. McKissick.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, that actually makes an incredible amount of sense.
It does. But what I'm saying is that's kind of worse for what he's been doing. Like, he should be doing a hell of a lot better in that offense and not ever facing 8 men in the box.
Yeah, maybe there's just one problem. He's not any good.
You're not any good.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if year 2 goes a little bit better for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe they're saving all of his good plays for the playoffs, like they did with Damian Williams last year.
Does the Antonio Gibson at 5.5%, almost at the bottom, were you at all with Gibson? Because I only asked that because I see some people out there tweeting that if you watch Antonio Gibson's games, he's facing a lot of wide open lanes.
I mean, I don't know anything to the contrary. I guess we'll have to see if defenses adjust to him and stack the box. And if he starts to struggle, then he starts to struggle. You see it sometimes with some running backs where it doesn't really make a difference, and other times that it does. Right. Like, I don't think that I'm smart enough to know how to project that out.
Well, I mean, there's the flip side of it too, as Emory Hunt used to always say when he was working at the Athletic, is sometimes the 8-man box is the best thing a running back can see, because you make one guy miss and see you later, you're gone.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Emory played running back, right?
Yep. Small school running back. That's why he loves the small schools.
He loves the small school running backs?
Yeah.
I
mean, honestly, look, this is why he finds the James Robinsons, because he's spending the same amount of time with the SEC teams as he is with the small schools.
Yeah, Emory Hunt, one of the best Twitter follows too. He had a nice breakdown of Hinton on the weekend too. Didn't really work out if you played Hinton.
No, I don't think anybody playing Hinton worked out. Did you play him in any of your leagues?
No, I picked him up to play him as my flex over Michael Pittman, and then at the last second I was like, what am I doing? I'm just going to play Michael Pittman. Although Pittman sucked.
I got saved, honestly. I picked him up in one league for the 4:00 game for him versus Ronald Jones, and it was, if I was going to be down by a lot, I was going to play Pittman or Hinton. It's for the the pure upside, and I was down, but I was down by close enough that I was like, I'll just keep Ronald Jones in there, which worked out really well.
Well, I had the touch projection. I was like, I have no idea how good this guy is or how bad this guy is, but I would say he gets between 8 and 12 rushes and 8 and 12 pass attempts. And if that's the case, that makes him like wide receiver 41. If that's the way that you want to play, just because that's a lot of touches to get. I didn't think he'd be I thought he'd be a disaster, but that was like epic level disaster.
That was that made Nathan Peterman. I was gonna say it made Nathan Peterman look good, but maybe not.
No, Sam Darnold has still had worse games, which is funny.
Who was the one with 7 interceptions in the one game for Detroit? Oh, what the hell's his name?
It's not Orlovsky.
No. It's arguably the worst game of all time at quarterback. 7 interceptions. Somebody, hey, do you want to do your giveaway for that? Name him. First person to name him?
Yeah, I don't have anything to give away right now. I'm doing giveaways over the Christmas season to try to entice people to come back. Do you have anything else on running backs, or do you want to move on to wide receivers?
I'm looking down the list. No, how I'm going to do it for you. Would Devontae Booker be a must start? Now, I'm not saying where would you put him.
Yes, he
must.
Would.
Okay.
Yeah. He would be. He would be for you too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I'd be a little bit cautious, like the Duke Johnson type situation. That he's not better than Duke Johnson, but I'd probably put him right around the Gallman, Duke Johnson. Actually, you have Josh Jacobs at 15. He probably would just slide into that spot for me.
Yeah, well, that ranking is more predicated on that even if he plays, he'll probably not necessarily be limited, but I would expect that the touch share between Jacobs and Booker would be like 60-40, 65-35, like that kind of thing, instead of Jacobs being like 85%, because they'll probably try to limit him a little bit.
Right. Okay.
And with no Richard around, I don't know whether he's coming back or not this week, but that would just leave basically Booker in the backfield to absorb the catches and carries, which would be huge.
Are you sad you haven't been able to say Rocky Richard for weeks?
I mean, he's as an anti-vaxxer, he's doing his thing right now. This is his time.
I didn't know that was anything to do with what he was doing.
No, I have no idea. I assume he's out like in protest or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, wide receivers. Oh, by the way,
sidebar.
Yeah, weird sidebar. It just that always stuck with me was that weird tweet, just the anti-vax tweet from Jalen Rocket Richard. I was like, did not peg him as an anti-vaxxer. But here we are. Wide receiver rankings for the week. Also, subscribe to Mayo Media Network. Smash the like for the video. And if you enjoy MTV's The Challenge, which I do, and listen, if you give it a chance, you shall enjoy it as well. I have a free fantasy game up right now, a full preview show up on Mayo Media Network. Plus, I released 3 shows today, Tuesday, with my friends from The Challenge Chronicles who re-watch old seasons of The Challenge and then talk about them. I highly enjoy because I enjoy old seasons of The Challenge. But those episodes are up on Mayo Media Network right now. If you go watch The Duel, the fans voted the #1 season of The Challenge, so got them to rewatch it. Those shows are up. You can watch them all on CBS All Access right now. But you can go join the free Pat Mayo Experience Challenge Fantasy League for season 38. Total Madden, or no, that's not. That was last season. Double Agents starts on like December 9th or something like that. So wide receiver rank.
One of the Challenge girls follow you on Twitter or something? And like
probably
from past.
I'm big in the Challenge world, so they should.
Like something Kerr or something is her name.
Maybe. Jake, you have a far better grasp of who follows you than I do.
No, it's following you. I just happened to see because there was one and you're talking about the challenge stuff and she liked something or whatever and was like following you. Like I don't remember. Something Kerr, I think.
Sweet story. Wide receivers likely in. I got Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola, who have the same hips as my grandma at this point, apparently. But I'm gonna guess that they're gonna play this week. Maybe it's been 10 days since. Brandon Ayuk going to return from the COVID-19 list. Adam Thielen likely to return from the COVID-19 list. I think we'll see. Likely out. Julio, Hump Daddy, DJ Chark, Chris Conley, Larry Fitz, Zacchaeus, Willie Snead. Maybe this will get updated. Out. Preston Williams, Julian Edelman, John Brown, Will Fuller, who got suspended, and Randall Cobb with his toe injury. So number one.
Kenny Golladay is miraculously going to get better this week. There's no question about it.
I played him in the Flex League last week.
I saw that. I wasn't even trolling you for that. I didn't even notice the Kenny Golladay part.
Blast for that. I got so it's like, do you really think I'm caring about this? I got content. I'm doing a live show. I can't go just adjust all my teams. I'm sorry.
I legitimately, the only reason I tweeted that, for everybody out there, I wasn't putting you on blast. I didn't even notice the Kenny Golladay thing. I only pulled up the matchup because you ended up facing Tyreek Hill, and I was like, oh God, Pat was on a run and he got stuck facing Tyreek Hill, so that was why I tweeted it out. And then that's when I saw.
It wasn't Tyreek Hill. I faced Gibson, Deshaun, and Fuller on Thanksgiving.
That's what
I'm down 100 points. Great.
Yeah, I knew it was really bad, and that's what I was tweeting about. And people mocked both of you because Jamie had a Thursday guy in his flex, and then you had a Kenny Golladay in your lineup. So
I also had a Thursday guy in my flex.
Did you?
And I think I had Myles Gaskin in at the time too.
Look, that's week 12 was a madhouse for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of spinning. That's the one problem that it's really hard to be. When people look at, especially DraftKings pros, when they're putting out stuff, you rarely see a lot of DraftKings, pros do a show from noon to 1 or 11 to 1 on Sunday because they have lineups to go input. If people are doing their shows, they're probably not the highest stakes player, myself included. I'm just throwing that out there because you either focus on your content or you focus on your lineups, and sometimes lineups have to go by the wayside for the providing of the content. That's my job. It's not playing the leagues; it's actually talking about the stuff. So that's the one shitty part about some of this. I still have a chance in that
100%.
And I started off.
Yeah, you still do.
Let's see. I'm in 6th right now. Is Azer going to lose? Yeah, Azer's getting demolished, so I can still catch.
How are you looking in points?
I'm ahead of everyone who's trying to pack, except for, let's see here. How many points did this guy score? Did he even
Because
win?
for everybody out there, we do 6 goes to points. So.
Oh, shit. Really?
Why. Yeah.
Oh, Eric Young is definitely going to get the points in. He has 1,500 points, and he's in last.
That's what happens. That's why we do 6 to points.
So I have to catch Azer then, which
Azer's going to lose though, right?
Azer's going to lose, so he has to lose next week, and
Adam Azer of CBS Sports.
Yeah, and I need to win, and I'll pass him because I have more points.
Yeah, but see, that's what happened. Like, to go back to your point about that, that's why I had a miserable week in DraftKings, because I'm like you. I actually do the show later. We're on from 11 till afternoonish, and then I'm updating the seasonal rankings for everybody out there. So the last thing I'm doing is usually, so that's why I'm not putting 4 and 5 figures into DraftKings on Sunday morning, because I know that's probably pissing half of it away.
Yeah. And I mean, you texted me. He's like, why are all the Chiefs so owned in your contest? I was like, we gave out that stack. I played it and barely cashed.
It's not like, it's not that it didn't make sense. I was just curious because if you looked at the ownership, your contest, it was like twice the ownership of most every other like contest, like big contest. And I was like, you had to have talked about it or something.
And we did. That was the stack of the week. That, and I played the Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins stack, which was putrid. So that was fun too. Devontae Adams, number 1 in the rankings. Keenan Allen, number 2. Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Just play both of them. Just Lockett's going to have a huge week or a bad week. That's just the way that's going to work. Just play them. Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson. Into Devontae Parker. This is assuming Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting. A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Ridley. Assuming Julio is sitting once again. Debo Samuel, Kenny Golladay, Scorin McLaurin, Stefan Diggs, and Jarvis Landry. Landry had a nice rebound
Devontae
week.
Parker thing for you?
What's that?
Oh, yeah, he did. Devontae Parker. So he just spent the most he has all season, 28% in the slot. He had been averaging about 21%. His season high 12 snaps in the slot. Previous high was 8 and 9. He did it 5 times. And the report is they saw something in that game where he's getting better yards after the catch working on the slot. So Parker might even see an uptick this week with even more slot opportunities in the way that Fitzpatrick and him are gelling in the slot. So just to throw that out there.
Basically, whenever Fitzpatrick starts, play Devontae Parker. That's
right. But I'm saying the ceiling could be back to like last year. Like that, we might.
That would be nice.
You know,
I could use that.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Yeah. Are you confident? So here's where I'll give you my side of the Jarvis Landry thing first, and then see, because you said, he had a nice game, and he does look about 100% healthy. Like, we know he was lingering towards the beginning of the season, but it's Baker Mayfield, and I had a decent amount of watching that game because I was getting frustrated with Kareem Hunt, and so I tuned into that game, and then I saw that shot he took. I actually was surprised he came back after that because he was hurt after that one. But all that being said, Baker Mayfield, he's done this before. He gets this tunnel vision. And I feel like in this matchup, I had a lot of Kadarius Hodge in some seasonal leagues too. And that was the other reason I was getting frustrated. And he's 12 and Higgins is 82. Or wait, it's the other way around. That's the thing, is they're both 2. So that was frustrating me too. But the point being is I'm watching both of them get open. And I'm watching him still go to Landry, still go to Landry, still go to Landry. Do you think this was a matchup week in Baker's tunnel vision, or do you think that Jarvis Landry is maybe back into being consistent top 20?
I don't think that he's going to be consistently top 20, but just in lieu of everything else with some of these matchups, that if you have him, you play him. You saw what the upside is, and this could be a better matchup because you would expect the Titans to score points that all Cleveland. Just running the ball probably isn't going to cut it against the Titans. You're going to have to pass a little bit. And first look just seems to be Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think it'll be as great as it was last week for what people are hoping for.
Yeah, I know. I would agree with you on that. 21, Robert Woods, Brendan Cooks, Chase Claypool, Michael Pittman, Sterling Shepard, Alan Lazard, Juju Smith-Schuster, T. Higgins, Tim Patrick, and Laviska Shenault at Minnesota. Were you surprised? I still have Crowder the highest ranked of the Jets guys at 31. Should I severely move him down after what we saw last week?
Yeah, there's I'll get some other numbers on that. I was actually looking into that. So the 2 games with Flacco, Perriman air targets and target percentage is 21 and 21 about air yards per target, and 21 and 29% for Perriman and Mims in target percentage. In those games, Crowder, obviously, 8 and 11. But last week with Darnold, he did see an uptick to 10 and 18. But Perriman and Mims, despite the fact that their target percentage was higher, it actually was 29 and 29.6. They were tied. Their air yards were down, but the target percentage was much higher than Crowder. So it wasn't that immediate. I was on Crowder last week. I thought Sam Darnold back under center, Crowder all day long, back to top 25. the target percentage was actually like worse if you look at it for Joe Flacco. Now the air yards were worse for Mims and Perriman, but the target percentage was there. So I still would give him one more game as Jamison Crowder, but it just might be a mess going forward. It might be very similar to, I'm trying to think, like, I was going to say the Bills, but Stefan Diggs is just so easy in the front by himself. The Raiders, it might just be 1 week it's one guy, 1 week is the next guy, 1 week is the next guy.
And the issue is Sam Darnold still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in September.
I thought you were going to say he's not any good.
He's not, but that there is a just nugget for you to prove that he's not very good.
Right. Yeah, so there's the downside to it. So you know what? If I'm setting my lineup, I might shoot for the ceiling of Perriman, and I would still go Perriman slightly over Mims. But
see, I would go Mims over Perriman. I actually watched a lot of that Dolphins Jets game. That just the first look always seemed to be to Mims, and he just seems like he's better.
Yeah. Well, the target percentage was exactly the same, so it's kind of like a perception. But I'm going to go with the guy who's out there. And he's only out there slightly more. That's the other thing too. Crowder was actually third in snaps and routes between the three of them.
Well, there was just a lot of crossing routes from Mims, which I didn't see from Perriman, which I was really surprised at. Like to get him out of the sideline, to get him off Xavier Howard or Byron Jones, depending on where he was lined up. Just a lot of crossing routes across the field where Perriman was still doing most of his damage near the sidelines.
And if you're talking about Sam Darnold at quarterback, that's certainly fair. I have not watched all 60 minutes of that game, so I will lean to your knowledge of that one.
You're slacking on that one, so maybe I'll bump down Crowder. I'll think about that more.
I think we were all just too pissed off at freaking like we had to like rely on anybody in that game.
Yeah, it's true. So Crowder at
Frank
31.
Gore.
Crowder at 31. Amari Cooper at 32. Boyd, Corey Davis, Cole Beasley, the Bees. Marquise Brown, Denzel Mims, Gabriel Davis, Marvin Jones, Demir Bird. And then you got Hunter Renfrow, some CeeDee Lamb, Jacoby Myers, Brendan Ayuk, he's coming back, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Reagor, Nelson Aguilar, Darius Slayton, who had a nice 0 last week. Thanks for showing up, Darius Slayton. Mike Williams and Christian Kirk. And then like other like random guys. If both the Jacksonville players are out again, you can play Colin Johnson, probably 2L Colin. Had a touchdown. It was nice. Kiki Cutie. I don't really know what's going on with the Texans passing game. Like Cooks is the only one I would really trust, but it's a tougher matchup against the Colts at the same time that I wouldn't just go overboard now that he's the number one. Maybe Cutie or the tight ends get involved. I kind of have to wait and see what goes on with that situation. But I think taking a chance on some of the Raiders guys against the Jets, just because you can pound the Jets into the ground through the air, that could be a spot, whether it's Renfrow, Ruggs, or Aguilar, pick your poison. But I think that one of those guys has a huge game.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll go through that one by one. So Darius Slayton, Dan Dugan for us actually thinks there might be something wrong with him. Just from
like he's not any good.
No, like he might be masking an injury. Also because the snaps were a little bit off from what he normally is, just usage wise. So that again, and also the other concern compounding that is Colt McCoy. We're talking Joe Flacco yards per attempt out here. Good Sam Darnold level. Like, yeah, all right, he's going to throw 5 yards at a time. So that even hurts Darius Slayton more. The second part about that, the Houston situation, QT is going to stay in the slot role. So deep play, like I'm not playing him this week, but go grab him. One of my favorite pre-draft sleepers was Isaiah Coulter of Rhode Island. And if you go get him, he's the one that should slide outside to replace Will Fuller. A great talent. His biggest problem is just like being able to separate. But if they're going to send him deep, similar to Will Fuller, it might be fine. And again, I'm not playing him this week, but go stash him just in case. And then lastly, I'm with you on the Raiders. Henry Ruggs has started this uptick slowly. It's not somebody you can trust yet still. Renfrow feels like the safest, but if you want to take a dart throw, the Jets are a great team to do it against.
Quarterback rankings for week 13. What do I got here on the injury report? I got Drew Lock is back, so I have him in the rankings. I have Daniel Jones, Lamar, Tua, Foles, Minshew, and Garoppolo all as likely out, not in the rankings this week. And then when I started doing
Lamar.
Maybe Lamar, but maybe Lamar, maybe Jimmy G ends up coming back. Maybe Tua's thumb is fine. Like, I don't know. Again, Tuesday rankings, always a lot of fun. Mahomes 1, Kyler 2, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Those are my top 4. After that, it gets real dicey because I like Josh Allen a lot. The Niners D is pretty good. Justin Herbert, I mean, he just got shut down by the Bills. The Patriots can probably make his life a living hell as well. That's what Belichick does really well with rookie quarterbacks. Then like Deshaun without Fuller, it's been a noticeable drop-off. He averages like half the amount of touchdowns per game without Will Fuller around. So that's not great, but I still have him at number 7. Taysom Hill should be fine because he just rushes in touchdowns. Roethlisberger, tough matchup. Kirk Cousins, good matchup. Number 10, you can probably play him. Same as Fitzpatrick. Then you get into like the jabronis with good matchups. Cousins, Fitzpatrick, Tannehill, Derek Carr. Give him a pass after last week. Rivers has a good matchup against the Texans. Trubisky is eaten against the Lions. Baker against Tennessee. Matt Ryan, Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, and Colt McCoy. Maybe Wentz should be higher against the Packers, considering he scored more fantasy points than Russell Wilson did on Monday Night Football. But, man, no. I can't trust that.
He only did because of the Hail Mary anyway.
And the rushing yards.
Okay, so yeah, some rushing yards. To go back up near the top, the Justin Herbert thing. So something that you and I talked about now 4 or 5 weeks ago is the NFL is going to at some point, they're going to get enough film and get enough study and start to adjust to Justin Herbert and start to make him make mistakes and poor throws. And if you look at the last couple games at Miami's got a good defense, 187, 2 touchdowns and an interception. The Jets, miserable. They can't stop anybody, even if they had all the film in the world. 366 and 3 touchdowns. But then, as you just mentioned, against Buffalo with Tre'Davious White, 316, 52 pass attempts, a touchdown and an interception. Stephon Gilmore hasn't been the Stephon Gilmore, but you mentioned Bill Belichick. You mentioned that, if Gilmore's out there, which has always been the problem with Mike Williams being the roller coaster, is he's also going to face the top corners because Keenan Allen spends so much time in the slot. So I'm with you. Justin Herbert would still be inside my top 10, but he's getting to the point now where the league is starting to adjust on him, and it's getting riskier than it was. The Taysom Hill, I will say this. Here's the one thing I'm concerned about in this matchup. The Atlanta Falcons run defense all year long.
Yeah, but
terrific.
It's not that they have a good run defense, though. It's just they encourage everyone to pass against them because their pass defense is so bad. I'm convinced of this. We see this happen every year with a couple teams, that teams get inflated like, oh, they're actually really good against the run. It's like, no, they're awful against the pass, so you don't need to run on them. But here's the sneaky thing about the Saints. They can only run.
No. But the thing is, they've legitimately limited good running backs, even with touches. So I'm just saying, if Taysom Hill only gets 1 rushing touchdown, he drops down to like Phillip Rivers. Just saying, there's a risk. I don't know that I would play him over Roethlisberger, Fitzpatrick, Kirk Cousins. Honestly, I'd put him just down by Ryan Tannehill. Like that Ryan Tannehill, whether he has a conservative game or a big game because that offense just might not need him to throw, I feel more Taysom Hill for me in that range, despite the fact he has rushed for 2 touchdowns in 2 games. Cam Newton was doing that earlier this year, and look what happened to Cam Newton. They're the same quarterback.
Sure. The big X factor with Hill, though, is that I don't think that there's anyone on Atlanta that can cover Michael Thomas, that if they do want to go to the air, they can go to him, and he can score some touchdowns, too.
I still don't trust Taysom Hill throwing the ball, honestly.
I think he can complete the 8-yard slant to Michael Thomas pretty well. We saw that week 1 with Taysom Hill.
No, sure. I don't disagree with you, but so this is Michael Thomas' 15-target game. So put Michael Thomas back at number 1 on wide receiver.
Yeah, that would just put him on average with like Devontae Adams at this point.
Hey, Pat, where's Lamar Jackson going to rank if he plays?
That's tough. Probably number 5, I'm guessing, is where I would slot him against the Cowboys because I have Griffin
in front of Allen.
Yeah, I'd probably play him over against the Cowboys.
He hasn't been Lamar Jackson.
For whatever
I'd
reason,
play Allen still.
I didn't even put Robert Griffin in the rankings for whatever reason. Where should I rank Robert Griffin against the Cowboys if he ends up playing?
I think you should just wait. Just wait.
Baltimore QB. Like, would you play if let's say it's Griffin? Like, would you play Rivers at the Texans, or would you play Robert Griffin? I think I'd play Robert Griffin. Just like
no, I put him at 15, right in front of Trubisky.
Okay, that's fair. I'll put him in right now.
Robert Griffin's not a great thrower.
No, he's not, but he's sort of like the anti-Rivers, where now that they're like down by the goal line, like, let's bring in Jacoby Brissett. That's really getting annoying, by the way. The problem with Robert Griffin, though, is also not the runner he used to be. Yeah, he might be. Do we really know what Robert Griffin is at this point? Like when he comes into games, it's been like, yeah, but he comes into games, usually it's like the 4th quarter. Like, what's he really going to do? Nothing. He's there to mop up.
Am I misremembering? I thought he had a start last year.
He had a start last year? Lamar won MVP and he missed a game?
I thought Malloy just sat a game. Yeah. He sat what was it? It's week 17. We saw him in week 17 when like half the people are sitting anyway.
How'd he play?
I'm going back to check. Let's see. Robert Griffin III. I have a feeling it wasn't a very good game, and that's why it's in my memory is that he was 11 of 21 against Pittsburgh in Week 17 for 96 yards. Ran 8 times for 50. Yeah, that's not bad. 8 for 50.
No, and he doesn't have to play the Steelers defense. He gets the Cowboys defense. That's a lot better.
That is true. Although in my mind, I was like, no, wait, he's playing the Steelers because of tomorrow.
Yeah, because of tomorrow. Tight end rankings for the week. I have Andrews, Irv Smith, and Zach Ertz always likely out for the moment. You mentioned the James Conner thing where he is he's recovering from cancer. Mark Andrews is a diabetic, and we've just that there's something to add on to all of this that maybe he doesn't return right away. Maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something worth monitoring. If nothing else, you should have a backup quarterback and a backup tight end at this point of the year. Most years, let alone what's going on this season. If you have Andrews, and depending on what your waiver wire is looking like, if somebody dropped Tanyan, if Jack Doyle or Trey Burton are out there, like I might pick up 2 tight ends at this point just in case of what you're talking about.
I have Kelsey at number 1. Hot take for me. I still have Waller at number 2, and he actually sucks, but he's number 2.
Hey, he's Amari Cooper.
TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, Logan Thomas, Kyle Rudolph. This is assuming no Irv Smith, by the way. Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. That's the top 10. Then I got Jordan Reed, Hayden Hurst, Mike Gesicki, Robert Tonyan, Big Zero, Jonnu Smith, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron, Dalton Schultz, Jared Cook, and Jimmy Graham. Fun week. I have Jack Doyle in twice. Even better. That's supposed to be Trey Burton, I'm pretty sure. It is supposed to be Trey Burton. Yes.
I would say it's Trey Burton.
Yeah. Trey Burton.
Sneaky rushing touchdown, Trey Burton, by the way.
Did he have another one last week? No, he had a receiving touchdown.
No. I just meant that he get. By the way, Jordan Akins, I like Jordan Akins. To go back to the discussion about no Will Fuller, is you could just see more involvement for Akins for 2 reasons. Is one, because he's a pass catcher, but they might start running more 12, get Darren Fells back out there again, which just means that Darren Fells is going to vulture the touchdown from him. But,
potentially, or
hey, how about that?
Pharaoh Brown is actually playing more snaps than Darren Fells now.
Has he gotten to that point?
Yeah,
I haven't gotten to that point of my Tuesday work yet.
Well, he had been. I didn't look at Thursday's game after I bet Pharaoh Brown to score a touchdown. He didn't, although he was wide open on the first touchdown. They should have thrown it to him. Although I guess it worked out with Duke Johnson instead. But I think that they're playing Pharaoh Brown more now. They've done a much better job at protecting Watson over the past few games. I think that's directly related. That he's not running a ton of routes, but he's just always on the field as an extra blocker.
Yeah, so Pharaoh Brown, 29 to 28 last week. Fells it was out there 28, but they also ran 6 and 4 routes.
And the week before, Brown played, I think, 60%. To Fells is 40%.
Yeah, they were actually both out there more than Akins. Akins was out there 26 snaps, but ran 17 routes. Yeah. So
Akins would be the one to play if you're going to play one. Even as bad as tight end is, you can probably find a better option.
You certainly can. How about that Will Dissly? We talked about it. Can you guarantee it's not Jacob Hollister? Yeah, it was Jacob. Not that it was that much for Jacob Hollister, but that is a big fat 0 in my lineup, replacing Mark Andrews with Will Dissly.
Someone asked me about dropping Goddard because Ertz is eventually going to come back. I don't think it really makes a difference.
I think it makes enough of a difference to push him down to low-end tight end 1 if Ertz is back, but he's still a tight end 1. I would still play him over Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed had, 6 or 7 targets in that game, only caught 2. It's still Nick Mullins at quarterback. So, yeah, Goddard still would be. Please do it in my league. I'm dying for tight ends in my waiver wire is decimated, and as you can see, I'm trying to find somebody just to fill in for freaking Mark Andrews.
You got to pick up your boy Cole Kmet.
He gets in more fights than he gets touchdowns.
I like it. Maybe you get bonus points for
that. There's nothing here outside. God, this tight end's so god awful.
Defenses for the week. Steelers, number 1. Saints, number 2. Miami, Baltimore against the Cowboys. The Bears against the Lions. The Chiefs, the Rams, the Colts, the 49ers, and the Washington Footballs at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then I got the Raiders, the Seahawks, Chargers, Cardinals, Patriots, Vikings, Lions, and Packers. Sneakily enough, you mentioned that the Seahawks defense has been playing better. They have really good matchups 3 of the final 4 weeks.
Yeah, they do. And they're starting to get, as you just saw in that game, some good pressure on top of it, too. So if you're looking at a situation, what do the Giants do? Give up pressure. I think Colt McCoy used to scramble a decent amount It's not as elusive as Daniel Jones is at this point. So I think you can look at them and say, yeah, there could be a very intriguing one. I'm not going back to the Raiders that high. Matt Ryan just showed what we kind of had the conversation about last week. I said, the problem with everybody saying, oh, he's been awful without Julio Jones, is all 4 of those games were very tough matchups. And I say very tough despite what everybody keeps to want to yell him at. The Panthers' pass defense is good. Stop discounting them. So they just proved
they weren't very good against Kirk Cousins.
No, so they have it off game. They're not going to be amazing. They're good. I didn't say they were great. I didn't say they were shut down defense. But, he also faced the Bears there without Julio Jones. He just proved that it's not Julio Jones. It was both. No Julio Jones and matchups. Just destroyed the Raiders. I know it's Sam Darnold, but the Raiders had negative points last week. I can't go back to them that high.
They did lose 2 corners in the first 5 minutes of the game as well. Like, that's tough. They're both
still
expected
not
to be
that
back.
good.
Yeah, but when you lose both of your starters at cornerback, it's going to be a bit tougher in your pass defense.
I'm not saying don't use them, but I would absolutely play the Seahawks against the Giants, and I would definitely play the Chargers against Cam Newton, who's going to throw an interception at some point.
Maybe, but they just run so much.
Yeah, and they also Cam Newton also throws 15 passes, and one of them gets picked off.
Yeah, well, at that point, I mean, just play the 49ers. You can go pick up. Like, I did my playoff defense rankings. They're up in my waiver wire column right now. You can find that in the description. Rankings 1 through 14 for weeks 14, 15, and 16. I do individual week rankings in there as well, but I clustered them all together. And I think the best one that you can go pick up, because everyone went and picked up the Browns already, but San Francisco, Washington, at Dallas, at Arizona, and the pressure that they're generating right now. The Chargers as well. Chargers get Atlanta, Vegas, and Denver. Like, they're 3 good matchups. Not like none of them are great. I mean, Denver's kind of a great matchup, I suppose, at this point when Locke is slinging it around. The other 2 are like median matchups, which if you're going to be generating as much pressure as Joey Bosa can bring, like, that's going to be worth fantasy points. We even saw it last week with Josh Allen.
All right. 100%. By the way, Cam Newton, to go back to him real quick, more games with interceptions that he has with touchdowns. Passing, by the way.
That's impressive.
That's insane. That's insane.
Well, that was a fun ranking.
Do you know how many passing touchdowns he has?
2?
4.
4?
He's up to 4. A robust 4 he got up to.
How many are the running backs? Any?
2 running backs? Give me a second and I'll pull it up. I don't have.
I'm trying to think who caught these touchdowns. Like Ryan Izzo?
Oh, who caught? I don't think Izzo's been active for most of the games. The receiving touchdowns. The Damiere Byrd one.
Damiere Byrd had one against the Texans. Did Edelman have one against the Seahawks in that game?
Edelman does not have a touchdown. It's the only people with touchdowns are Byrd with 1, Harry with 1, Burkhead with 3, and Jacob Johnson, the fullback, with 1.
It's a good team, that Patriots. Good offense.
And that's 6 touchdowns, so 2 of those aren't even Cam.
Awesome. All right. That's us muddling through the week 13 rankings. Once again, I'll have all my rankings updated by day with new news up on dkplaybook.com. You want the quick links, hit them in the description of this video and podcast. Jake, your rankings come out at midnight, or are they pushed today because there's no Thursday yet?
Oh, the sleepers come out at midnight. The rankings will come out tomorrow now it's tomorrow afternoon at 3. So tomorrow evening-ish. I have to wait for game day data. Maybe I'll do them tomorrow and then, like you, just say, look, these are what I'm going to assume before the game. I don't know. We'll see. But the sleepers will still be out at midnight.
Well, that's a great thing about the internet, is that you're not reading a newspaper, so these things can be somewhat fluid because we're going to need it at this time of year. So thank you all for watching. Follow Jake on Twitter at AllinKid. Smash a like, sub to the channel, review the audio podcast, check out the rankings, and play in the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Open, and become a sub at FTN right now for projections, which get updated in real time, ownership projections, the optimizer. If you're going to play more than like $10 per week on DraftKings or betting, I highly suggest FTNDaily.com with the new discounted package plus code Mayo. It's pretty cheap, not going to lie. Pat Mayo, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!